The destroyer rises in your life when you cling to what is dead, when you refuse to release what has outlived its purpose. It comes as loss, as heartbreak, as sudden collapse, as the painful dismantling of structures you thought would last forever. At first it feels merciless. It feels like betrayal, like punishment. Yet beneath its violence lies a hidden wisdom. What it removes is what would have suffocated you. What it breaks apart is what kept you small. What it burns to ashes is what made you forget who you truly are. In your lineage, the destroyer has always walked beside the creator. Forests must burn for new seeds to awaken, old civilizations must crumble for humanity to evolve, and in your own life, parts of you must die so that greater parts may be born. The destroyer within you is not here to annihilate who you are. It is here to carve away the false layers, to strip you down to the essence, to demand your rebirth. To resist the destroyer is to resist your own growth. To embrace it is to understand that loss can be liberation, that endings can be sacred, and that even in destruction, life is secretly preparing you for a higher form of yourself. The archetype of the destroyer reminds you that nothing in this world is permanent except change, and that in surrendering to it, you align yourself with the very rhythm of existence. The self is the great inheritance of your soul, the ultimate archetype, the center around which all others orbit, the wholeness that your being secretly longs for. It is not just the sum of your parts. It is the unifying principle that brings harmony to your contradictions, that holds your light and shadow, your strength and vulnerability, your past and future in a single, radiant truth. The self is the hidden blueprint written into your DNA, the silent compass guiding you toward the fulfillment of who you were always meant to be. From the beginning of time, humanity has intuited this archetype in myths of gods, mandalas, sacred circles, and symbols of unity. It is the reason we tell stories of journeys that end in self-discovery, of heroes who must descend into darkness only to return transformed, of seekers who find what they were looking for within themselves. The self has always been the destination, even when we did not have words for it. And within you it waits, patient, unwavering, eternal. The self calls you not to perfection but to integration. It whispers that you are not just the hero, nor just the shadow, not only the lover or the sage, but all of them together. Each voice necessary, each archetype part of your wholeness. It does not ask you to destroy your contradictions, but to embrace them, to let them weave into a higher order of being. The self is the sacred marriage of opposites, the reconciliation of all the fragments that once seemed at war within you. When you glimpse the self, even for a moment, life changes. You feel a deep peace that no achievement or possession can offer. You sense that you are part of a greater pattern, a living thread in the tapestry of existence. You realize that you were never lost. You were always on the path, being shaped by every trial, every joy, every loss, every love. The self is not something you create. It is something you uncover, something that was always there beneath the masks, beneath the fear, beneath the noise. The great inheritance of your soul is not wealth, not status, not power. It is the discovery of this self. To awaken it is to step into your true destiny, to live not as a fragment but as a whole, to shine not as a flicker but as a flame. In this realization, you do not just survive, you become fully alive, fully human, fully yourself. So remember, you are not merely flesh, not merely thought. You are the living story of humanity made visible. Within your DNA sleeps gods and monsters, creators and destroyers, lovers and seekers. To live fully is to bring them into consciousness, to unite them, and to walk the path of your true destiny. For when you awaken the archetypes in your DNA, you do not just live, you embody the eternal drama of existence itself. In your instincts, this archetype is alive in the moments you take risks without knowing the outcome, when you question the unquestionable, when you dare to step into the unknown with a grin instead of fear. It is present in your creativity, in your humor, in your ability to see the absurdity of existence and yet dance with it rather than collapse under its weight. The trickster whispers in your blood so that you never forget. Order without play becomes tyranny, tradition without renewal becomes decay, and seriousness without laughter becomes death of the spirit. To listen to the trickster is to allow yourself the freedom to reinvent, to transform, to be surprised by life. He lives in you to remind you that even the gods of order must sometimes be humbled, and that every fall can become the beginning of a new ascent. The seeker burns in your soul, restless and unyielding, a flame that refuses to let you settle for what is merely comfortable or familiar. This archetype is not satisfied with the shallow surface of life. It pushes you to look beyond what is given, to ask questions others fear to ask, to wander into landscapes unknown both in the world and within yourself. It is the force that drove your ancestors to leave the safety of caves, to cross oceans without maps, to chart stars, and to uncover mysteries hidden in the fabric of existence. This hunger for more, this refusal to remain confined, is not a weakness. It is your inheritance, carved into the very code of your being. The seeker within you awakens when routine becomes unbearable, when the path before you feels too narrow, when the answers handed down by others no longer satisfy the ache in your heart. It is a fire that whispers, "There is more truth, more meaning, more life." To ignore it is to suffocate under the weight of stagnation. To follow it is to embark on a journey that will test every part of you, stripping away illusions and demanding courage. And yet, the seeker is not aimless. Though it drives you into the wilderness of uncertainty, it does so with purpose. Each step into the unknown is a step into yourself. Each risk taken, each horizon pursued, reveals not only the world around you but the depths of your own spirit. The seeker reminds you that your destiny is not to remain still, but to evolve, to expand, to become. The fire of the seeker is why you feel that longing when you stare at the night sky, why you dream of possibilities larger than your present life, why you know deep within that you were born for more than survival. This flame will not die, for it is the same flame that has carried humanity forward through every age. To honor it is to honor your own soul. To follow it is to step into the great adventure of becoming who you truly are. The lover lives in your heartbeat, pulsing with every thrum of life, reminding you that existence without connection is hollow, and achievement without love is barren. This archetype is not merely about romance or desire, it is the ancient call within your blood to unite, to bond, to weave yourself into the fabric of another soul, of community, of life itself. The lover is the current that flows through every act of affection, every moment of intimacy, every spark of passion that awakens you to the beauty and depth of being alive. From the earliest days of humanity, the lover has guided us, not just to reproduce, but to care, to sacrifice, to see another as part of ourselves. This pattern is inscribed into your body and your spirit. It is the reason you long to hold someone close in times of fear, the reason your heart aches when you witness suffering, the reason your soul feels whole when you encounter beauty. The lover is the bridge between self and other, the archetype that dissolves isolation and whispers, "You belong to more than yourself." But the lover is not only tender, it is also powerful, demanding. To truly love is to risk, to expose yourself, to surrender the armor of ego. It is to see the divine in another, and to allow yourself to be seen. It is joy and vulnerability intertwined, creation and loss held in the same embrace. The lover reminds you that passion can heal, but it can also wound, and yet, without it, life remains shallow, untouched by the depths of meaning. The lover in your heartbeat calls you to infuse everything with connection, your relationships, your work, your art, even your dreams. To live without love is to exist in fragments. To embrace it is to feel the unity of life flowing through you. With each beat of your heart, the lover whispers that you were not born to walk alone. You were born to give, to feel, to merge, and to remember that love is the eternal force that binds the human story together. The sage is written in your mind's architecture, carved into the folds of your brain and woven into the very circuits of thought that guide your awareness. This archetype is not only about intellect, it is about wisdom, the deep remembering that you are not the first to walk this path, that within you lives the knowledge of countless generations who have struggled, failed, learned, and passed forward the essence of their experience. The sage lives in you as intuition, as insight, as the sudden clarity that arises when you pause and listen to the quiet voice within. From the beginning of humanity, the sage archetype has whispered through elders around the fire, philosophers who questioned existence, mystics who saw beyond appearances, and teachers who pass down truths that still breathe in your blood. Every proverb, every story, every lesson learned in the school of suffering has been carried into your DNA, not just as history, but as living potential. When you seek wisdom, you are not reaching outward. You are awakening what already resides within you. The sage within you does not shout, it waits in stillness. It emerges when you dare to look past your impulses, when you refuse to be enslaved by your emotions, when you ask not just, "What do I want?" but, "What is true?" The sage guides you toward perspective, helping you see that life is more than this moment, more than your ego's demand. It reveals patterns where others see only chaos, and it helps you understand that suffering itself carries meaning when viewed through the eyes of wisdom. Yet the sage is not cold detachment. True wisdom is not sterile. It is alive, compassionate, and rooted in the lived experience of humanity. To embody the sage is to unite knowledge with understanding, intellect with empathy, vision with humility. It is to see the truth not just for yourself, but for the sake of guiding others. In your mind's very architecture lies this inheritance. Each thought, each reflection, each moment of silence is an opportunity to let the sage rise. When you honor this archetype, you step into your role as a bearer of wisdom, not just for your own survival, but as a light for others who are still stumbling in the dark. The destroyer is part of your evolution, a force as ancient as creation itself, dwelling in your blood and shaping the destiny of your soul. It is the archetype that tears down illusions, that shatters what no longer serves, that strips away comfort, so that transformation can occur. The destroyer is not cruelty for its own sake, it is the hard hand of necessity, the archetype that clears the ground for new life to grow. Without destruction, there can be no renewal, without endings, no beginnings. This truth is etched into your very DNA, reminding you that death and life are not enemies, but partners in the eternal dance of becoming. My friends, within you lies an inheritance older than your flesh, deeper than your thoughts, and more eternal than your name. It is not merely blood that runs through your veins, it is the myth of humanity itself. You are not just an individual. You are a bearer of timeless forms, the archetypes woven into the very strands of your DNA. Each choice you make, each dream you dream, each struggle you face is not accidental. It is the awakening of patterns that were written in your being long before you were born. To ignore them is to live as a stranger to yourself. To embrace them is to awaken the destiny you were created to embody. The hero sleeps within your cells, quietly waiting for the moment when life demands more of you than comfort, more than ease, more than the illusion of safety. This hero is not an invention of imagination, but a pattern written deep in the code of your being, carried forward through the struggles and victories of those who came before you. Your ancestors braved storms, fought beasts, endured famine, and crossed vast unknown lands. Their strength did not disappear, it crystallized within you, silently urging you to rise when the world seems impossible to bear. The hero within you awakens when you are confronted with fear, when a challenge stands taller than your present self. It is in those moments of trembling doubt that your cells whisper, "You are more than this weakness, you are more than this moment, stand, fight, transcend." The hero does not promise ease, but it does promise meaning. For every time you answer that call, you stretch the limits of your being, you carry the torch of your lineage, and you carve a path through the unknown. The hero in your DNA is proof that greatness is not reserved for myth or legend. It is a living reality, pulsing through your veins, waiting for your courage to set it free. The shadow is encoded in your blood, woven into your very inheritance, carried from generation to generation like a hidden river beneath the surface of life. It is not just your personal fears or flaws, it is the unspoken memory of humanity's darkness, the impulses your ancestors once hid, the truths they dared not face. Every cruelty, every envy, every forbidden desire that history tried to bury still breathes quietly within you, waiting to be recognized. To deny it is to deny a part of your humanity, to live in fragments, always haunted by what you refuse to see. The shadow rises in moments of anger, jealousy, pride, or despair. It shows itself when you betray yourself or when you project your unclaimed weakness onto others. And yet, it is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Within the shadow lies raw energy, unclaimed power, and the possibility of wholeness. To look at it is terrifying, for it strips away illusions and reveals the beast within. But to embrace it is to find a reservoir of strength that no mask of perfection could ever grant. Every drop of blood in your body remembers the battle between light and darkness. To integrate your shadow is to walk into that battlefield with courage, to claim both sides as your own, and to emerge not as a saint or sinner, but as a whole human being. In your blood, the shadow is not a curse. It is a call to transformation, an invitation to become complete. The mother archetype flows in your lineage, carried in every heartbeat, in every gesture of care, in every instinct that leans toward creation and protection. This energy is older than your name, older than your bloodline. It is the pulse of life itself, expressed through countless generations who birthed, nurtured, and sustained existence against the odds. Whether you are male or female, young or old, this archetype lives within you, whispering of compassion, reminding you of your bond with the earth and with all living things. The mother is not only the figure who gave you life, she is the eternal pattern of nourishment, the soil that sustains the seed, the embrace that heals the wound, the force that says, "You belong, you are safe, you are worthy of love." And yet, the mother is more than tenderness. She is also fierce, protective, and unyielding when the life she guards is threatened. Within your DNA lies this dual inheritance, the gentle touch that soothes, and the fierce strength that defends. When you awaken the mother within yourself, you realize that creation is not limited to bearing children. You can birth ideas, nurture relationships, protect dreams, and cultivate growth wherever life calls you. Every time you choose to care rather than to destroy, to protect rather than to abandon, you embody this eternal archetype. The mother in your lineage is a reminder that life is not sustained by power alone, but by compassion and care. To honor her presence within you is to honor the sacred responsibility of being human, to give, to protect, to love, and to sustain the miracle of existence. The father archetype anchors your spirit, giving form to the chaos of existence and shaping the raw energy of life into direction and purpose. Where the mother nurtures, the father guides. Where the mother embraces, the father points toward the horizon and says, "Go further." This archetype lives in your lineage as surely as the bones in your body, echoing the countless figures in human history who built, structured, and upheld order so that life could endure. It is not merely a role, it is a pattern, a force that whispers in your soul when discipline is needed, when boundaries must be drawn, when courage must take the lead. The father within you is the voice of responsibility, the reminder that strength is not given for dominance, but for protection, leadership, and integrity. He is the builder of bridges, the protector of values, the one who says, "Stand upright, walk with dignity, and let your word mean something." In times of confusion, when you feel adrift, this archetype rises to give you structure, reminding you that freedom without form dissolves into chaos. Yet the father is not only authority, he is also vision. He looks beyond the present moment, sees what is possible, and calls you to rise into that potential. He demands effort, not to burden you, but to awaken the strength that already exists in your being. When you resist discipline, you resist a part of yourself. When you accept it, you find the power to achieve what once seemed unreachable. In your DNA, the father archetype is an ancient inheritance, passed through generations of builders, leaders, and protectors. To embrace it is to anchor your spirit to something greater than the fleeting desires of the moment. It is to stand as one who carries order into a disordered world, one who gives shape to possibility, and one who walks not just for oneself, but as a pillar for others. The trickster whispers in your instincts, sly and untamed, reminding you that life is not only about order and discipline, but also about disruption, play, and the breaking of rigid patterns. This archetype lives in your DNA like a spark of wildness that refuses to be chained, a restless voice that laughs at the seriousness of your carefully constructed plans. It is the part of you that questions authority, that resists conformity, that turns mistakes into opportunities and chaos into creation. Without the trickster, humanity would have remained locked in cages of its own making, never daring to bend the rules, never daring to imagine something new. The trickster within you is not evil, though he may appear mischievous. He unsettles your certainty so that you do not become a prisoner of your own routines. He plays with your ego, dismantles illusions, and forces you to see truths hidden behind the masks you wear. Sometimes he makes you stumble, sometimes he makes you laugh at yourself, but always he pushes you toward growth. What feels like sabotage is often initiation. What feels like failure is often transformation in disguise.